Can you talk about the crosstown rivalry with UCLA and how special that is?
Well, I've got some bittersweet comments on that. While the rivalry was without question distinct in all of college football, the bitter part of that for me, Brad, was I'd gotten mail, hate mail, throughout my career there at USC, and there was one particular piece of mail that I received that was unusual. I'd never seen anything like this piece of mail that I got. It was a cryptid letter that basically said, right before we were getting ready to play UCLA, it said, "Nigger, if you go out there today on that field, we're gonna blow your brains out." And again, having grown up in the South, I was used to integration, segregation, Jim Crow laws, and that sort of thing. Having to sit up in the balcony and different bathrooms and that sort of thing. And so, but this particular letter was unique, and so I took that letter to Coach Robinson, who was my coach as a senior, and he was disturbed by it, and so he asked me what I wanted to do prior to that game, because I think I received that letter on a Wednesday. And so I said, "Hey, Coach, I want to, hey, man, I'm not going to let this discourage me. This is nothing new to me." And so he said, "Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the LAPD and make them aware of this letter so that they can provide the necessary force around the stadium that it's needed, because they didn't know whether this was serious or not." And so, we dealt with that aspect, and then I put my mind back on the task that was at hand, and along with, my teammates. And yeah, you don't have to get up for a game like that, but I would say that I had an extra set of thoughts that were going through my mind during that time. But it was an exciting time. It was an exciting game. It was a close game, and the best part of the game is we went out there and we took care of business and walked away, in victory.
Vince, interesting about this letter, and you referenced that you received hate mail at USC or through your entire career?
At USC, and some in the pros, not as much in the pros, but definitely at USC. And in fact, Brad, I think it's interesting that we're even talking about this now in lieu of what's going on in our world, and which I think it's a good thing to talk about, because for so long we just haven't had the dialogue. Not that we should, talk about it all the time, but I think that when it's pertinent, I think that's the part that could bring about healing in our world, is that we just have conversation. So, Coach Robinson to me was one of the great men that I've ever met. He had such courage, because another story that happened was there were alumni, and I'm going to leave the names anonymous, but I know this to be a fact. But Coach Robinson was told by certain alumni that if they started me, that he would be fired. And Coach Robinson said to these trustees, said, "Sir, if we're to do anything as a team, it's going to be with this young man, Vince Evans." And so the response by the trustees was that, okay, if that's the way you feel, but if you don't win the Pac-8 and the Rose Bowl, you're definitely going to be fired. And, of course, you know, we went on to win the Pac-8 and the Rose Bowl, and as Providence would have it, you know, I was elected the most valuable player against Michigan in the Rose Bowl. And so, you know, while it was exciting being at USC and being a part of my with my teammates to do magnificent things, and those memories will never leave me, and I stay in contact with some of the guys that, you know, that I played with. You know, there's some memories that also will never leave, you know, because it was just a part of my history and a part of my story and a part that has made me who I am today. And so it's a good thing from that perspective.
I guess it's just how naive I am. Look, in the South, you hear about stories. Here you are in Los Angeles. You're not the first African-American quarterback at USC. And we're talking about the mid-'70s here. Yeah, it's a long time ago, but it's the mid-'70s. And for a college kid to be getting hate mail and the things that they're saying, man, that's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because the difference about the South, what I found out when I came to California, is that you knew exactly where you stood with racism there in the South. I mean, they made it was front and center. You can't sit in the main floor. You have to sit in the balcony. You can't go to this bathroom. You have to go to that bathroom. You have to go to certain schools. You knew where your boundaries were. What I learned in California was that it was, you know, look you in the eye, smile in your face, but really didn't want to have anything to do with you. It was a more secretive. It wasn't in your face. It was more deceptive, and that was what I found was the difference.